openly a sort of cheap version of Nazi propaganda. You also have to understand that there are people out there who enjoy the sadism. It might be just because you're an asshole. Since February, suddenly people want to know about Ukraine. Ukraine is leaving this very sadistic and oppressive and violent Russian family. And I don't know about you, I've always found something very, very oppressive and suffocating in the bratski narody language. You know, all these happy families together, raping and killing them as soon as the door is shut. The really big change in Russian propaganda happened actually in 2014. Before 2014, it was trying to play many clever games with the West and with Russian audiences. You know, pretend, wear different masks, speak in different tongues to different audiences. Since 2014, and really even more since February 2022, it really isn't about that anymore. It is now openly a sort of cheap version of Nazi propaganda. It doesn't hide the fact that it's a dictatorship anymore. And now it's basically trying to pretend or say that it doesn't care what anybody thinks about it. It's gone from a kind of marketing and PR strategy, trying to understand audiences, shape to the audiences, to basically saying, we're going to commit war crimes and there's nothing you can do to stop us. So there's been a shift. There are people who just see their own agendas. They don't really think about Russia or Ukraine. They have their own histories with America, so they see everything through the lens of hating America. And they'll see Russia as positive because they hate America. That's, I think, many of these audiences. Others like authoritarian leaders. We should never forget that authoritarian leadership has an appeal. It is much studied in social psychology. There are 13, 15, 18% in every country who like big, strong, or what they think are strong leaders. And you also have to understand that there are people out there who enjoy the sadism. They enjoy the sight of murder. They enjoy the sight of the strong crushing the weak. And they like leaders who do that. There's been many, many studies of why that happens. It might be because of your family life. You had a father like that. It might be just because you're an asshole. There's a lot of assholes out there. I mean, this has been one of the miraculous stories in strategic communication, just in public opinion, since February, is suddenly people want to know about Ukraine. People have a clear story about what Ukraine is, almost a miraculous story of a sort of almost miraculous transformation of a country that seemed, to people's minds, weak, to one that's sort of a superhero. And it works on many, many levels. I think also sort of the transformation of Zelensky from a reality show star to a war hero, this idea of transformation, I think is very powerful. But yeah, suddenly everybody wants to be part of that story. I mean, I was born in Kiev. My parents left when I was 9 months old, so I never lived here. But all my life growing up in London, I had to listen to people going, oh, you're from Ukraine, that's Russia. Nobody says that anymore. So I'm very much of the philosophy that you should set a positive agenda. I think that debunking is always putting you in a defensive position. I think at the moment, people are open to new stories, not just focusing on the old ones. So at the moment, I would still use the family metaphor, though. You know, Ukraine is leaving this very sadistic and oppressive and violent Russian family, and it's joining the European family. So I would stress that Ukraine is part of the European family. And I think that's very important, because I still see a tendency, even though most people support Ukraine, to still see it as over there. Yeah? We're supporting some nice little guy over there. And I think it's very important for people in the rest of Europe and in America and beyond to see Ukraine as part of the same family, and to see Ukraine's fight as their fight. I think it's just unmasking what was already there. I don't know about you, I've always found something very, very oppressive and suffocating in the bratski narody language. You know, all these happy families together, clearly, you know, and then, you know, raping and killing them as soon as the door is shut. So I never, you know, there's few things in my propaganda experience more creepy than happy communist propaganda, you know? So I think now it's just being revealed. It was always patronizing and sadistic. It was always about humiliation. And now I just think it's just being revealed about what it always really was. Russians have been killing and trying to wipe out the idea of Ukraine for many centuries. And I think now they're just showing the evil that was always just hidden just below the surface, and not very far below the surface. I mean, they're really scary. You know, those big murals of bratski narody together, oh, really scary. They're not hiding their war crimes. These are not hidden war crimes. They're committing atrocities and they're saying it doesn't matter. So this is also a form of very aggressive propaganda. They're saying we can bomb and mass murder. We can openly try to genocide Ukraine and Ukrainians, and there is nothing the world can do about it. And so far it's unclear whether they're going to win that. Even when Ukraine wins totally on the battlefield, if Russia is then normalized again, if they can still get away with it, weirdly, they've still sort of won that battle. So they just want to take any last shreds of belief in truth and justice and just destroy them. And the scary thing is there are many, many regimes in this world who want to see that happen. So the whole world is watching to see, can they get away with it? And in that sense, this is also very much a global conflict. Tolkien, Seuss, Harry Potter. I know it's a funny thing, but the real antidote to propaganda is not facts. The real competition is between propaganda and art. And what do I mean by that? Propaganda isn't really about knowledge and epistemology. Propaganda, in the way we're using it, sort of negative, aggressive, malign propaganda, is trying to develop types of identity. Identities which are paranoid, closed, aggressive, sadistic. That's the way Russian TV works. That's the way far-right TV works in many countries. So you don't counter it with facts. You counter it with content that develops a different type of personality, one that is open, humane, and ready to see beyond the paranoid visions of Russian propaganda and many other propagandas, because they're all very similar. Nazi propaganda worked the same way. They all try to make, you know, one person somehow superior to others and legitimize violence. So the real things that change that are books and films which undermine that worldview. So I don't know. I'm a huge fan of, I think, Ukrainian art and literature has always been very good at it. So maybe reading a lot of Vasil Stus would be very good for people. Reading a lot of Zhadan at the moment would be very good for people. These are very, very humane writers. Not optimistic necessarily, but very, very humane. So anything that works that way, any kind of arts and movies that ease people's sense of fake superiority and sadism. So I think that's very important. And then any films that make it clear that you have to fight evil, that you can't run away from it. So I don't know. I think Tolkien's pretty good. You know, maybe watch the Lord of the Rings or something. That'll prepare you for the fact that you have to confront evil and you can't run away from it. Harry Potter, maybe a bit of that as well. A bit of Harry Potter, a bit of Tolkien, a bit of Stus, and you're ready to fight.